All right, in this tutorial, now we're going to talk about how CN reads floating point values. In this case, we're going to talk about doubles, but this would hold true for a long double or floats as well. All right. So when we enter information from the keyboard, we know that a double data type is a sign type, meaning it can be positive or negative. So we can optionally type a plus or a minus sign at the start of the number. We could let it start with a decimal point. We're going to see that it stops reading. So we said earlier in our earlier tutorial about CN with integers that CN will skip over any leading white space and then it will stop when it encounters any sort of non-numeric character, something that doesn't fit the pattern, which would be a trailing white space or alphabetic or any other non-numeric characters, right? So anything other than a correctly placed decimal point. And let's just run through some examples so that you can actually see that behavior. So here we have a double variable named x. We're just going to prompt the user with a message asking them to enter it. We'll enter it and then display what was entered. All right. So this pops up and runs. So let's just start with something of 1.23. All right. This is going to be positive by default. If we don't have a leading plus sign, that's fine. It will assume it's a positive number. So as it tries to match a pattern, right, it knows it wants to read in a double here simply because x has been defined as a double. So it's going to look at this first character, the number 1, and say that's numeric. That's fine. It's going to see a decimal point. It's going to say, well, okay, that's fine. You can have a decimal point at that place in the number, and it will keep reading here, the 2 and the 3. I'm going to press the enter key, right, which forces CN to return, basically gives the new line character, and we can see it reads in 1.23. All right, let's run this again. All right, and let's do the same thing. We said we could have a plus sign, so if we say plus 1.23, that pattern is fine as well. Notice cout does not print the positive sign, right? By default, it just does not do that. So let's run this again, and let's do it with a negative sign, negative 1.23. All right, we can see that all of that works as expected. Right, so the things that make sense to us as valid numbers, that is what this extraction operator is trying to do. It's trying to read the characters from the keyboard and turn whatever characters it can into a numeric value. All right, we said it skips over leading white space. So as you're following along, right, I'm going to type a blank space, and then I'll type 1.23, hit the enter key. We see we still get 1.23. Right, so it skipped over that leading white space. All right, we said we could start with a decimal point. So what if we just type 0.23? That looks like a valid number to us, right? And it does to C++ as well too. Notice when it prints it out, it prints it with the integer, the leading 0.23. All right, so anything that really looks normal or valid to us, CN will be able to interpret correctly. All right. Now, what happens if we were to type 1.23.45? That would not make sense to us to be a decimal number. What CN is going to do is it's going to read the 1. And it's going to say, okay, that's fine. That's numeric. It's going to see the first decimal point and say, okay, that's fine. It's going to read the 2 and the 3, right? And then when it sees the next non-numeric character, it's going to see a decimal point. It's going to say, no, I've already seen a decimal point. So what it's going to do is it's going to interpret this as 1.23. It actually will leave the 0.45 still out in the stream to be read. Right. So we see the 1.23. All right. If we were to put this in a loop and ask it to read multiple times, so I'm going to say create something called count equals 0. Wow, I'm going to say count less than 3. I'm going to move this code in here. So all I'm doing is creating a loop that's going to run 3 times. If I move the code I want to execute into the body of the loop, well, why is control paste not working for me? All right. And I need to increment count here at the end, right, to control the number of times the loop executes. Count. All right. So now this section of code is going to run 3 times. When count is 0, when count is 1, and when count is 2. Let's bring this up. All right, and let's show that behavior. All right, so I'm just going to say 1.23, hit the enter key. Notice it shows us what we entered, right? Minus 4.5678, right? We can have numbers of varying length, right? The third time, I'll try something with a plus sign, right? All right. And, why did that just tell us 344.5? Oh, it rounded it and it did not show the decimal point. It should be more precise than that. Right now, I don't have an explanation for that. I don't know why we're not seeing the decimal point there. Oh, everything always surprises me sometimes with coding. Should be able to give us a number that's a little more precise than that. All right. What we saw was we were able to enter 3 numbers. I'm going to try not to get distracted with why it only showed us nothing to the right. Actually, what did I say before? 344.554 point. Oh, okay. It might be because it's printing out 6 significant digits unless we tell it to print more. If I say 344.554.5555 without the plus sign, notice we get that. Okay, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and by default, it gave a scientific notation. It will do that to try and just actually then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, basically try to print out 6 spaces. So we would have to set formatting flags and fixed flags in order to get things to print out like we like. I just wanted to take a look at that behavior to see if that was consistent. So by default, this is basically trying to, in fixed point format, try to default to 6 characters at the most. Right, so this is an output thing we're not going to worry about right now. We really want to examine the input behavior. So let's run this again. Let's use smaller numbers. All right, so I'm going to type 1.23 space minus 4.56 space minus 98.71. 3 numbers with spaces in between. Hit the enter key. And what we're going to see is for the first number, so I filled the input stream with this stream of characters. Right, so the first thing it tried to read as X was 1.23. So that's what it did, output this. I don't want to count. When it looped back around, it printed out the message enter double variable, but it didn't stop and wait for us to enter anything because it already had information from the stream. So it had extracted the 1.23. What was left in the stream was the space minus 4.56 and so on. So the second time around, it said, I've already got data there. It read in, then it skipped over the leading white space and it read in minus 4.56, terminated when it got to this space character, this white space character, right? And then loop back around. Next time, it didn't wait for us to enter anything simply because there was information already in the stream, right? Minus 9.71 is what it read in. And then our loop ended. So the point of this is if there's information in the stream and it encounters another CN, it will go ahead and read what's already there. Normally, we want to clear the stream, right? To get rid of any garbage the user may have typed before we try and read the next value. And we'll talk about that in a future tutorial. For this, I just wanted you to get a feel of the pattern matching that it does when it's trying to read in any sort of floating point information. All right, so that is the end of our tutorial on how it reads doubles.